Hi there and welcome to Real Talk Fitness with AMPT. I'm your host, Ashley Cummins. For those of you that are just jumping on and listening to our channel for the first time, I'm a busy mum of 2 boys. I also train in quite a few different domains, from running to high rocks to powerlifting to some CrossFit events as well. So I really know what it's like to balance everything, and I do believe understanding your body, hearing other people's stories can really help you in your journey. So today's episode is all about understanding your menstrual cycle, your hormones, recovery, your body weight and performance, and how with being a female they can all tie in. And before we dive in, one of the biggest mistakes women make is assuming their body should feel exactly the same every day of the month. So let's dive in. The reality is that your hormones change dramatically through your cycle. And those hormonal changes throughout our cycle can affect our hunger, our cravings, your recovery, your sleep, your mood. We've all been there, where one day we're happy, next day we want to stab somebody in the eye. Your body image, your strength, your performance, our water retention. And if anybody wears a Garmin watch, it can actually affect some of your metrics and definitely your scale weight. So let's understand these phases, because this can help remove a lot of the fear around temporary changes in our body weight, our recovery levels, and how we feel. So day 1 is not the day after your period finishes. Day 1 is the first day of your period. So the first day of bleeding is what we talk about as day 1 of our cycle. So you got day 1, day 2, day 3. So this is called the menstrual phase, from day 1 to 5. The hormones, estrogen and progesterone, are both low. All right, so let's get our head around that. Phase 1 is when we're actually bleeding. So when we have our period of some description. So our estrogen and our progesterone are low. So what is happening is our body is shedding the uterine lining, and both major female hormones are at their lowest. So what you generally feel is you feel more tired, lower energy, you feel more emotional, you have less motivation, you have lower recovery, and less desire to train. So training in this cycle, some women feel terrible. Others actually feel better once the bleeding starts, because the hormonal roller coaster of the luteal phase, which we'll go into, is ending. So if you wear a Garmin watch and you find your body battery is often lower in this time, or it's alerting you that your HRV may be reduced or your recovery might be lower, this is all normal. Then we go into phase 2, so our follicular phase, day 6 to 13. So generally when bleeding stops, our estrogen rises, but our progesterone remains low. And this is often the best phase of the month. So when we look at being in a deficit or feeling strong, this is generally the phase where we are at our peak. Estrogen has so many benefits. It can improve our insulin sensitivity. It supports our recovery. Our mood improves, our energy improves, and our resilience to stress also improves. So stress being anything from being in a calorie deficit to outside stresses to training stresses. Stress is stress at the end of the day. So you might feel more confident, more energetic, you have better sleep, better mood, better body image, better recovery, and you just overall perform better in the gym. So this is often where most people will hit their PBs, their running feels easier, their strength feels better, and their work capacity improves. Which then brings us to phase 3. So it's that ovulation around day 14. So what happens with our hormones is our estrogen peaks, testosterone peaks slightly, and the luteal hormone, so LH, so triggers ovulation. So this hormone causes the ovary to release an egg. Testosterone, women produce testosterone too. Surprise, surprise. So during ovulation, it rises slightly, and can it also improve our motivation. And generally, when you think about this phase as an animal, right, our libido increases. So Generally, when this happens, we are no different to an animal. This is our ideal mating time, right? Sounds funny, but it is what it is. Our confidence can improve and our training performance as well. So these are the 2 weeks that I like to talk about when our training is optimal, being in a deficit is optimal, because you feel strong, motivated, energetic. And however, the one thing I have noticed is most women experience bloating, water retention, ovulation pain, or temporary scale increases around ovulation, which is quite normal. You can tend to feel puffier, look softer, or feel heavier. But most of the time, it's really important to know that this is fluid, not fat gain. Now, this takes us to phase 4. So day 15 after ovulation to day 28. It's called the luteal phase. And this is where your hormones, your progesterone rises, estrogen initially drops, and then rises slightly again later. But progesterone becomes a dominant hormone here. So let's understand this a little bit more. Progesterone. It's important because it prepares the body for pregnancy, if that's on the cards. But even if it isn't on the cards, that's what its job is. It raises our body's temperature. It can increase our breathing rate. It influences appetite. And it can change your sleep quality. So as progesterone rises, many women can experience increased hunger, increased food noise, more cravings, more fatigue, reduced recovery. And this is often before we start day 1, phase 1. So this is often right before your body bleeds again, right? Then you'll find we have what we call the late luteal phase, so day 21 to 28. And this is the most challenging for females. So I think understanding this, and in this phase, try not to put too much pressure on yourself. Like if you are having body composition goals, like that's fine. You can still be in a deficit, but don't expect to be in such a severe deficit. So, fueling your body adequately prior to sessions, letting go of the emotional attachment to the scale, because many women notice in this late luteal phase that their food noises increase. Their body image worsens, scale weight increases, we start to recover less, our sleep worsens, cravings increase, and your mood can become more sensitive. Now, I think the most important thing to remember in this part of your cycle is that you have not gained body fat. Your calories have not stopped working. You don't need to do anything crazy and cut your calories, increase your training. That's the worst thing that you can do in that phase. Most of the time, it means that your hormones are doing exactly what the hormones are supposed to do, right? You're probably thinking, why on earth does the scale weight often increase? So many women can gain 1 to 3 kilos during the luteal phase. So remember, the luteal phase is just after ovulation, and then you have the late luteal phase. And this usually can come from water retention, glycogen storage. So when we use those big words, it just means the carbohydrates that you eat are storing. Inflammation, so our body becomes inflamed. And often people explain that their digestion starts to slow down slightly. So you have less bowel movements. Now, the less bowel movements, the less you're excreting, the more that is holding up in your intestines. So a fun fact about that is you can hold up to 5 kilos of weight in your intestines. So no, in this phase where the scale weight, if you're so driven by the number, is gone up 1 to 3 kilos, it's not body fat. The scale might rise for several days in this late phase, and then it can suddenly start to drop off once your period starts and you go back to phase 1. Now, I think the really big important thing here is to understand estrogen. So it's one of our biggest hormones in the woman's body, and its benefits are recovery, mood, insulin sensitivity, energy, better performance. Higher estrogen can generally make us feel leaner, stronger, more confident. Now, progesterone is often what you'll find in most contraceptive pills, but it does have benefits. It's essential for a reproductive hormone. It can increase our body temperature. It can increase our hunger hormone, which is why sometimes with your contraception that you'll find one of the side effects might be weight gain, and that can be due to increased hunger signals. Increased water retention, so you'll feel puffier. reduced recovery, so we're not recovering as well from our training as what we were in different phases of our period. And you'll find that your resting heart rate will slightly increase. Now, the other hormone to understand is testosterone. So women also need testosterone. So it benefits strength, muscle retention, recovery, libido, our confidence. And this slightly peak occurs around that ovulation part as well. So it's really important to sort of understand this. Now, another hormone that's not really spoken about very often, well, I feel like it is now thrown around more often than not, is cortisol, which is our stress hormone. Now, this stress hormone can rise from lack of sleep, from hard training, from being in a deficit, from life stresses and mental load. So think of a bucket, and when we're adding in stresses into that bucket, it doesn't matter whether they're life stresses, whether they're training, or whether they're eating well in a deficit for body composition, it can all increase this cortisol. So it's really important that we manage this, and understanding it is our first key to success. So higher cortisol can cause poor sleep. So the worse you sleep, the more what I like to call, sometimes when we're tired, our body doesn't go, we need more sleep. It will automatically think, yep, okay, we need more food. Water retention increased on your food focus, which I just spoke about, and you're not recovering as well from your training sessions. So for a lot of women that are active that are listening to today's episode, is that this often becomes more noticeable during the luteal phase. So remembering that luteal phase is basically just straight after ovulation. So the back end of the 2 weeks before you get your period, all these changes are happening. So this is something to be really aware of. I usually like to say it's kind of like from day 1 to day 15, which is like day 1 of your period to day 15 is generally when, you're going to be feeling your best. Every woman is slightly different and more sensitive in different hormonal areas. Now, again, this is just things that I have learnt along the way. This is not medical advice by any means. So if you are struggling with different hormonal things, it is really important to seek medical advice. But what I do find in the years of working with females is that a lot of people that suffer PCOS or endometriosis, this normal cycle of the hormones isn't going to be textbook. So everybody is slightly different in terms of the symptoms that they experience. I've also found over the years that the older you get, the more sensitive that you get to these phases. And the closer that we get to menopause, where our body's like, okay, yep, no, we're done with making babies, and then our hormones change all over again, it's really important to understand what is happening. So the most important thing to remember is that we are not the same woman hormonally on day 7 as you are day 21 of your period. So comparing those 2 days is like comparing 2 different recovery environments, right? So instead of asking, why do I feel so different this week compared to last week, maybe often look at, if you do track it and you are intrigued on how you feel and what you're going to do with your training and food in different phases, is often ask yourself, what phase am I in? Is because this can often answer some of the questions, your hunger, your poor sleep, the body image struggles. Now, we all struggle sometimes, but understanding it will be the key to appreciating that, it is just temporary, and it is also our hormones doing what they're supposed to do, which meaning we're healthy. The water retention and the changes in your recovery. So I feel like I hope that's kind of given people clarity in day 1 to day 28 and how the hormones change throughout the body, because understanding your cycle allows you to work with your body instead of fighting against it. So instead of, punishing yourself because the scales have gone up, I feel it is really important to understand why. If you're feeling more puffy, also understand where you are in your cycle. Is this, it doesn't mean that you have done something wrong with your food. It doesn't mean that your training's wrong. You don't need to make any dramatic changes. So understanding and listening to your body is really, really important. And this can also help from a medical standpoint if you are finding any problems and you do need to seek medical advice, is taking all of this information to them. So That's a wrap for today's episode. It's short and sweet, but it's all the information that you need to know. There's definitely a lot of apps out there that I'd recommend for you to use to start tracking this, because you'll find it really interesting and be able to appreciate your body for what it's doing rather than punishing it. Because at the end of the day, our body is such an amazing thing. And I think we place so much emphasis on the scale or how we look in the mirror rather than understanding on a deeper level what our body's actually doing and appreciating it in that time, knowing that it's not forever. So if this episode has really resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with somebody that it might help, or even share on your social media and tag AMPT or tag Ash Cummins. I love to see who's listening, because if we can help change one person's life, we can change many. And until next time, guys, keep it real.